Hey, what's going on, gang? Nate on the Stone here. Welcome back to my channel and to the 79th episode of The Rolling Stone. Mea culpa. I know that we are very late, or I am very late in getting these videos out. I have absolutely no excuse except to say that life got in the way again. Work had to be done because bills had to be paid, and Toby needed food and his meds. And if you're wondering who the heck Toby is, then make sure that you follow me on Instagram. You'll see him right off. He's the guy with 4 legs. But to get down to this week's videos of the Rolling Stone and to our first story, I need to take a step back and just remind people what we've been doing on this channel recently, in case you haven't seen it, because the last 2 videos I have posted have been provocative. Deliberately so, because I have started talking about revolution, raising the possibility that we need a revolution today, a second American Revolution. And the last video I uploaded here, our regular On the Stone video for this week, went into the justification for revolution. Well, this video, our first video for this episode of the Rolling Stone, isn't so much dealing with a story, one particular story, but it is an appendix to my last video where we were talking about the justification for revolution, because the whole point I made in that video was that a revolution is required when a society becomes fundamentally unjust. And we went into a lot of reasons at the end why I believe our society today is unjust, our society and our culture. Now, I think that video has actually been getting a lot of positive responses. As of this recording, it has 25 views, not as many as I would like, I'll just be honest, but it's been getting a lot of positive feedback, 5 likes and 1 really stellar comment. But just in case there was anyone here who hadn't seen that, or who saw it but who was kind of on the fence about my argument here, I just wanted to take this opportunity with some recent examples. Recent meaning I've just seen these since uploading my last video, to make the case again that we are living in a fundamentally unjust society. And we are living in a fundamentally unjust society because we are living now, there's no gentle way to say this, gang, but we are now living in a totalitarian society. There's just no getting around it. We are living now in a totalitarian society. And I think a lot of people have trouble grasping that, because we have been given a very specific idea of what totalitarianism would look like, which is completely normal. I understand that, especially because for most of the second half of the 20th century, we were in competition with the USSR, which was, at its time, it was the greatest totalitarian power that the world had ever seen, especially the modern world. So because we were the arch enemy, the arch nemesis of the USSR, we thought that totalitarianism was the USSR and the USSR was totalitarianism. So you would have to have a violent revolution, a small minority of ideologically driven people, like the Bolsheviks, would rise up, take control of the government. There would be one party. There would be, the official newspapers, there would be the official TV stations, there would be the official books, people would be sent to the gulags, there would be the dear leader, whether he was Stalin or Lenin or Gorbachev or whoever. Brezhnev, that was another one. So we've had this idea of totalitarianism, that it would really be top to bottom. But that is not what totalitarianism always is. That's not always the form of what totalitarianism is. And so even though none of those things have happened in the United States, at least not openly, we can say that we are living in a totalitarian system. Here are just a few examples that I saw, again, just between now, as of this recording, and the posting of my last video. So here's something that I saw on Twitter. This is a sign that has been set up in Muir Woods. Now, Muir Woods is, according to Google, Muir Woods National Monument is part of California's Golden Gate National Recreation Area north of San Francisco. Okay, so it's a national park. It is a national park. And in fact, this sign was put up by the National Park Service, U.S. Department of the Interior. And I'm going to break a rule here because this sign has to be seen to be believed. So here you go. Now, in case you can't read what all of that print says here on the video, this is what it says. Muir Woods, Queer Woods. Muir Woods is highlighting queer ecology and the new perspectives it gives us in this forest! Exclamation point! Queer ecology is the study of reimagining how people think about nature. It studies gender, sexuality, and behavior in the natural world. Queer ecology questions the way people categorize nature into binaries or boxes. Oftentimes, these boxes don't account for how diverse nature is. Things are rarely as simple as either A, B, or C. Nature is more of a blend of them all. Some boxes, queer ecology challenges, are male, female, natural, unnatural, and human nature. As you explore the woods today, we hope you find new ways to view the world around you. When was a time you saw something in a new light? Unquote. Close quote, close paragraph, as Jimmy Stewart says in the Philadelphia Story. So there you go. The Department of the Interior, outside of Muir Woods, which is a national park north of San Francisco, is now pushing queer ecology on any poor sap who happens to want to go out and walk in the woods. This is now what is happening. This is now what's happening. And you, Mr. and Mrs. Average American, when you go out to a national park, you want to enjoy nature, right? You don't want maybe you want to get away from all of this intersectionality, politics, jazz. You just want to, as Henry David Thoreau might say, you want to commune with nature. You want to cleanse yourself of the hustle and bustle and the hurdy-gurdy of everyday life, particularly what's happening now, and just kind of rest, reset yourself. Can't do that anymore, because even when you go out into the woods, you are lambasted with the politics of recent fads and fashions. That's what's happening. Now, that is not the only example. That is not the only example, unfortunately. Here were some other ones that I also saw on Twitter. Did you know, for example, that the University of Wisconsin has removed a large boulder that has been on campus for years and years and years because certain students actually said that the rock was racist? This is actually from Breitbart News, okay? University of Wisconsin declares large rock to be racist, votes to remove. Now, we have had universities remove statues of Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln. Brown University is actually trying to get 2 statues of Caesar Augustus and Marcus Aurelius removed. And for anyone out there who doesn't know, those are 2 emperors of the ancient Roman Empire. Doesn't matter. They're still white fascists, apparently, and oppressors, and so they all have to go. Which actually, just as a detour, that sort of reminds me of the old Monty Python skit from The Life of Brian. What have the Romans ever done for us besides education, public order, the aqueduct, public baths, medicine, education, the roads, wine, and order? What have the Romans ever done for us? But to get back to the seriousness of this story. The racist rock now. At the University of Wisconsin. The University of Wisconsin-Madison plans to remove a large rock from campus after students complained that it is a symbol of racism because it was referred to in a local newspaper in 1925 using a word regarded as a racial slur. The Wisconsin State Journal reported on Wednesday the 70-ton boulder is officially known as Chamberlain Rock, in honor of Thomas Crowder Chamberlain, a geologist and former university president. But the rock was referred to at least once after it was dug out of the hill as a N-word head, a commonly used expression in the 1920s to describe any large rock. The Wisconsin Black Student Union called for the rock's removal over the summer. The president, Nala McWhorter, said the rock is a symbol of the daily injustices that students of color face on a predominantly white campus. McWhorter also faulted the Wisconsin State Journal for printing the vulgarity in a 1925 news article. Yes, absolutely. The past must be made to bend a knee to the present. Never mind that the past is a foreign country and they do things differently over there. If the past does anything outside of the parameters of what we now consider decent, i.e., not actual standards of morality and virtue that we can discover through our reason and using philosophy and history and our own understanding of human nature. No. Simply what the powers that be have declared decent. If anything in the past contradicts those, it must be erased. Absolutely. So, there was that. But we are not quite yet done, ladies and gentlemen. For example, this is actually from a tweet from a woman I follow on Twitter, and you should be following her too, Claire Lehman, who is the editor of the online magazine Quillette. This is what Claire Lehman said on Twitter. An extremely non-PC study recently published in Nature magazine suggests that junior women do better with male mentors than female. So, if you're in a business, right, and you have a new woman, female recruit come in, and she's given a mentor, the new female recruit will actually do better with a male mentor than a female mentor, right? She will do better when she is underneath a male than when she is underneath a female. Patriarchy. And because Nature magazine actually published this, it is now apologizing. This is actually what Nature magazine, Nature Communications, said in a tweet. Quote, "We're aware of the concerns raised regarding the publication of this paper. We thank those who've contacted us about this issue, and we're looking into it as a matter of priority. NatureCom strongly believes in and supports equality and diversity in research." So there you go, gang. There you go. Now, what do all these things have to do? What is the thread that ties all of these things together? Well, it's this. We live in a totalitarian system, to reiterate what I said at the beginning. And these three examples reinforce that. Mere Woods. You can't escape critical gender ideology, critical gender theory. You can't escape it. Even when you go out into the woods, you are being lambasted with it and told that binaries don't exist. Binaries are oppressive. The University of Wisconsin-Madison, now a boulder, has to be made racist. Now a boulder is racist not because of anything that the boulder did or that the boulder was carved into. The boulder is just literally a rock sitting on campus, but because a local newspaper in 1925, so almost 100 years ago, 95 years ago, referred to it by what a lot of large, dark rocks were called back then, which is now, seen as a racial slur, and rightfully so. But because of that, because not even that is printed on the rock, not even because the rock is called that on campus, but because a newspaper called it that 95 years ago. The entire rock has to be removed. Not only, like I said, is this the forcible conforming of the past to fit modern sensibilities, but this is also a clear display of power. The Black Caucus at the University of Madison, Wisconsin, or the University of Wisconsin-Madison, they are not offended by this rock. Okay? Tons, I'm sure, of black students saw that rock, walked by that rock, probably even climbed on that rock and took their pictures on that rock for years before anyone had even remembered that an obscure writer for an obscure local newspaper called it a N-word head 95 years ago. This is a display of power. This is a minute version, again, what we were talking about before, okay, which actually ties it with the USSR. A minute group of people are displaying their cultural power because the university has completely agreed and said, yep, that's right, it's gotta go. It's gotta go. So what? No matter what they say, if you are part of the right group now, your word means more than anyone else. That ties back with what I was saying in the last video, right? The wielding of raw power. The wielding of raw power by the select few. And Claire Lehman's tweet about the article in Nature magazine, when you cannot, when a scientific magazine cannot even publish a scientific paper without running afoul of ideologues, and then must bow and scrape and apologize and basically, wet on itself, in other words, wet on itself and on its own legacy and everything that it means to be a scientific publication, then science doesn't even exist anymore, right? Science, any science, whether it's a hard science or a soft science, the goal isn't to make new discoveries. It is primarily to find the truth. No matter what that truth is, no matter how pleasant that truth may be, no matter how hard that truth might be to swallow. That is the entire reason why the sciences exist. But when you can't have that, then you don't even really have science. All you have is this primitive faith. And it's not even an enlightened faith like Christianity, which has always seen that faith and reason go hand in hand. This primitive faith sees anything that contradicts it as being untrue. So even if it's scientifically true, it has to be rejected. The only thing that can remain is the ideology, is the narrative. These are examples of what is happening right now, gang. They're happening right here, right now. And it's getting worse and worse and worse, as we've just seen. Who would have thought, even at the beginning of this summer, even in the middle of this summer, when there were mobs and rioting, looting, and rampaging all over, did we actually think that the Department of the Interior would be pushing queer ecology in a national park? Did we think that a boulder would be called racist? Did we think that a scientific magazine would have to apologize for offending people for a scientific paper that went through the peer review process and was published? I don't think a lot of people did. I don't think that a lot of people did. I certainly wouldn't have been able to guess that. I would have thought, yeah, no, we're never going to get that bad, which shows you how much I still have to learn. But most importantly, it reiterates what I said again in my last video. We don't live in a free society anymore. We live in a totalitarian society, because one of the marks of a totalitarian society is that you cannot escape. There is no escape. We've talked about this before. The programming of children into the sexual revolution in schools, but also their programming into the sexual revolution through children's shows, whether it's through Disney short films or Netflix is the Babysitter Club or Cuties. It's all the same. There is no escape. The ideology will have your soul. That's what differentiates totalitarianism from authoritarianism. Authoritarianism, it wants to control what you do, but it really doesn't care a whole lot about what you think. Totalitarian systems, on the other hand, they are very interested in not only what you do, but in how you think. And that's why there can be absolutely no escape from the ideology. No matter where you go, you are always going to see it. It is always going to find you. It is the monster that always seems to appear around the corner, even when you are running away from it and it was behind you. That, I think, that is what these examples show us. And it simply reiterates the point that I made. So if you didn't see the last video where I said why we are now in a situation where revolution is justified, I would recommend that you watch that. I will link it below, and I think I've linked it up here too. So with this story in mind, watch that and see if you agree with me. That is story number 1.